Your lifestyle is the cause for your high blood pressure, and it's not any more complicated than that.
If health is a state of mental, physical, spiritual, and social well being, a state in which the body is functioning at 100% and not merely the absence of disease, then why is it that black people are the least healthy race on the planet?
Welcome to Black Health by Evoke, a podcast where we discuss the unfair access to care, health inequality, and the cultural and generational impact of poor health in our communities.
It's time for us to take responsibility for our own health. Meet Dr. E, Dr. T, and myself, Dr. V. We want black people to be encouraged and empowered, for our people are perishing for lack of knowledge. It's time for black health to thrive, not just survive. What's going on? What's going on, Black Evoke Health? What's going on, fellas? How y'all doing?
Fantastic, man. Feeling fantastic.
Yes. Man, it's a beautiful day. I think every day is a beautiful day. You get to wake up and move around and see your loved ones, man, and work on your vision that you have for your life, man. And one of the things that's important in working on that vision is having good health, man. Working toward having good health. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Man, that reminded me of a quote. You asking that question and the statement you just made, Doc, reminds me of a quote that we have in the office, man. And it is quickly becoming one of my favorite quotes. But it says, when health is absent, wisdom cannot reveal itself, art cannot manifest, strength cannot fight, wealth becomes useless, and intelligence cannot be applied. And so health, man. I mean, I can't imagine. I can't imagine if I was unable to just get out of the bed in the morning and stand up on my own 2 feet. I couldn't imagine it, or even just stand up straight.
Right. Right. Dr. Tipler, Dr. Everett, we oftentimes we talk about the aches and the pains that we go through physically, but there's the aches and the pains that we go through internally when you talk about different things systemically that are happening in your body. And oftentimes you'll hear things like systemic.
Right.
Systemic is just a system in your body that's just not functioning at its optimal level, and it affects the totality of this thing that we call health.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. It takes us looking at it as a big picture, man, and not, piecing everything together.
Right.
Trying to, I got this issue, let me take care of this and that. Nah, it's like you said, man, it's systemic. We have to take care of the system, the entire body from head to toe, starting internally.
Which is kind of the theme of this of Black Health is the system, right? Looking at the whole body is really that, for our listeners, is what you'll hear from us time and time again, is that you got to look at the whole body in order to figure out what the issue is, in order to figure out what the problem is. And we're dealing with, all of these things that we're just reacting to and we're just responding to, when the truth is when you look at the entire system, man, many times you can come up with the solution.
And, just going back to that system, Dr. Everett, Dr. Tipler, one of the things that we're going to be talking about is, I believe, is probably one of the most simple systemic disorders that we face today, as far as combating, but it's become one of the most treacherous, and it's high blood pressure, and just getting started with it's often referred to as hypertension as well, and we hear a lot of people talk about their high blood pressure or their pressure is up, and I'm always going back to, when you talk about things that are going on with your body, high blood pressure is actually an important thing to be able to have. If you're in an intense situation, if you're trying to run, if you get excited, if you need to conjure up some extra energy, or for whatever fight or flight, which is the body's natural ability when something exciting is going on, your blood pressure rises.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is if it doesn't come back down when you're
Right.
at your rest state, you know.
That's a bit of an issue. It's a little bit of a problem.
And, you know, so just giving some facts. The Mayo Clinic states that when your normal blood pressure, you know, across America, normal blood pressure is 120 over 80. Now, when it starts to get hypertensive, it's 140 over 90. Now, severe high blood pressure is 180 over 120. This is when things can get dangerous. And if your body naturally is supposed to go up and go down like that, why do you all think that it is that, I mean, 3 million Americans a year are having a problem with it staying up and not coming back down?
Is that 3 million people a year are losing their life to high blood pressure?
3 million cases.
Wow.
A year.
Yeah, so that's added, man. That's crazy. That's crazy. And you know, and again, you know, like you'll hear us say time and time again, I think a great place to start with high blood pressure is that it's a symptom. Right? High blood pressure is a symptom of something going on in your body, something not functioning the way it's supposed to. It's a response. It's a response, just like getting chased by a bear and your blood pressure going up. Something going on in your body is causing that blood pressure to spike. And I think that's always an underlying point for us to make so that people understand from a baseline standpoint how they should be looking at their health, is that the blood pressure itself is not the thing to address in the long term. It may be the thing to address in the immediate sense, but not in the long term. The thing to address is why you have the high blood pressure in the first place.
Boom, boom.
Right.
Boom.
Yeah.
And I think that should be the very first question that we address when it comes to hypertension. You know, just backing up a little bit, man, just really giving an understanding of what high blood pressure is, and an easy way to really understand that it's just increased pressure. And, you know, if you can relate that to, you know, cars of old, when they used to run hot,
right?
You know, an old car, the pressure builds up in the car, it starts to run hot. You got to pull over to the side of the road. You open up that hood, it's smoking. And if you touch that radiator and you know where the little water valve that you pop open,
you got no skin on you,
no skin, because when as soon as you give it a little twist, then you know you got water shooting out and the steam shooting out, and that's just because of the increased pressure that's built up. And I think for to help people understand, that's literally what it is. You can blow a gasket because of the increased pressure in the body, in the arteries, which again leads to the heart attacks, the strokes, and the aneurysms, and the things that we've talked about in the past. But hypertension, especially as it relates to the Black community, man, is a real problem.
Yeah.
It's a real issue a very serious problem.
And it's interesting what both of you have said, because Dr. Everett, you said it's a symptom, and we should really look at the cause and what's actually causing it. And then you're driving down the freeway, and I remember I had a car that the radiator was always, it was going out, you know, and even in the wintertime, and Detroit's cold. And my radiator, for some reason, that maybe I could have had a better maintenance vehicle. But you know, you pull over, and I was always told, don't take that cap off.
Right.
You take that cap
and what
off,
them hoses look like? What them hoses look like, right? Them hoses be like, hey, they go from this big to like this big. Them jokers swollen.
So you really. And this is the confusion, because people, when you read, so what the CDC says is that high blood pressure does not actually have a symptom. It doesn't have a symptom. So one day you're driving your car, and then the next day the next minute, all of a sudden, the light comes on. The light comes on. The light comes on, right? So with Dr. Everett, I love what you said is what's causing it. Because if we wait for the symptom to come, it's already too late.
Right.
So how can we tell, or how can we kind of really get before it, as far as making sure that we don't even have the symptom that comes up for high blood pressure?
I think it goes to
Yeah,
I like this. We both ready to do this on this topic, man. Yeah, because it's such a problem, right? It's such a problem in our community, and it's such a fixable problem. I think that's why we're attacking it the way that we are. Is that it's such a fixable problem? It's a problem that we simply do not have to have, and it's about the plumbing. It's about the way the system works, right? The heart is a pump. It pumps the blood around your body. And if it's harder for this pump to work, you have high blood pressure. It's really that simple. And it's looking at the reasons why it's harder for this pump to work is the issue, right? When we're talking about what's going on and what's causing us high blood pressure, if this pump has to overwork, then that number that we get when we put the blood pressure cuff on, it goes up. And a couple of those reasons why that pump has to work so hard is it's harder to push the blood around the body, and it gets harder for a few reasons. One is the blood is thicker. And that's something to understand, right? The blood just simply being thicker. It's easier to pump water around your body than it is to pump chocolate. and the blood gets thicker. Right. Man, dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate.
It's harder to pump it around the body for a couple of reasons, and I'll let y'all jump on some of those. But one of those I want to touch is dehydration. Right, a lot of stuff gonna come back to water. A lot of stuff gonna come back to water. But just think of it this way, y'all. If there's not enough water in your bloodstream, it's harder for your heart to push that thick blood around your body. That's dehydration. If there is enough water in your system, then it's easier for that pump to push that blood around your entire body, to get it up to your head and down to your toes. That's one of the reasons why that pump will have to overwork and work so hard.
Man, I think Dr. E just hit it right on the nose, man. When you think about high blood pressure and the way that the body works and what it's having to do and do at a high capacity because of what we've done to ourselves. One of the things that I know a lot of people are going to say when it comes to high blood pressure, hypertension is, well, it runs in my family. I don't have any control over it. My mother has it. My father has it. Their parents had it. And their parents probably had it as well. So, if I'm going to get high blood pressure, I might as well just go ahead and eat what I want to eat and do this and not work out. And they got medication for it.
Right.
And, it's sad to think that there are individuals that would think that way. And I think the reason why they may think that way is because they haven't been educated properly when it comes to hypertension, how it relates from a genetic side, being something that's passed down from one person to the next. Look, I want to address this. When we talk about
this right now,
genes,
let's kill this right now. Can we just kill this right now?
Because when it comes to genes and genetics, the first thing you have to take into account and in consideration is what was the lifestyle of your parents, their parents, and their parents. And if their lifestyle is similar, where there was a lack of education, education as well, about high blood pressure, but a lack of exercise. We all know that the way that we've ate for so many years hasn't been the best. That the type of food that we eat is not the best choices, although it's good. It's not the best choices when we talk about survival. not just thriving, but when we're talking about surviving, right? All those things we tend to overlook, and we give this genetic factor so much power over what we have power. What we have power over, and that's the ability to change a generation of lifestyle. The way that we've been living a certain lifestyle, we have the ability to change those things. So when it comes to the foods that we're eating, not getting enough exercise or walking on a regular basis, doing those things is going to bring better health. Those things is going to really change how the body is functioning internally. Because it was mentioned before that, yes, you may have those genes in the body. You may have those genes that are passed down, but genes have to be triggered. They have to be basically turned on. Mm-hmm. If you don't turn them on, then those genes don't express themselves.
Right.
And really, so when it comes to a lot of these chronic illnesses that we deal with in our community as Black people, we give too much power to the way that it's been in my family, and it just goes down the line. When are we going to come to a point to where we stop that generational problem and start to do something differently so that we can see the difference that it brings? And that's all it takes.
You know what?
Man, like when it's like a rap song and like the rapper say the line and then there be another and then they double up the word at the end. Every time you say lifestyle, I want to say lifestyle. Every time you say lifestyle, I want to be like lifestyle underneath, because it's so important, man. And like you said, our lifestyle can trigger those genes, and if you're taking away anything from what we're talking about today, remember that part is it's not just that it's been handed down through your genes. You've also handed down that macaroni and cheese recipe for generations.
Right.
Exactly. And when you understand that the things externally have an effect on you internally, when you get that basic point, then you function and your life can literally change.
It can change.
Because what you eat and how absolutely matters. And it is, sorry, y'all, the cause for your high blood pressure. Your lifestyle is the cause for your high blood pressure, and it's not any more complicated than that.
Lifestyle, but one of the one of the things too, Dr. Tipler, I heard you say is you said turning those genes on, and the problem is we have so much foreplay with those genes that at a young age that this is why this disease is so prevalent right now. 1 in 4, fellas, 1 in 4 listeners. 1 in 4 people between the ages of 20 to 44 have hypertension, high blood pressure, which makes no sense because we believe we can eat what we want to eat, take upon the stress that we want to have at a young age, and it not have a factor. Doing that, like Dr. Everett said, is the foreplay with your lifestyle. Your lifestyle is the foreplay with this gene and turning it on. So if we got people between the age of 20, and that's a big myth that young people just don't get high blood pressure, right? Because when you're young, you recover. When you're young, your body's great. But when you're young, you're also training your cells and your genes on how to have this. So what do you all think about that myth? Being young is you'll be okay. All you got to do is a couple great drinks and a walk in the park.
Man,
man, when I was
baby.
A few years ago, I might have agreed with you, Dr. Vaught, but we're in the fast food industry right now. We're in the fast food era. In era. Thank you, Doc. So it's different now, man. Now you got a 1-year-old that eats McDonald's every single day.
Man,
they're eating McDonald's fries every single day at 1 year old. So a 1-year-old may not ever taste broccoli, may not ever taste a green bean, may not ever taste, you know what I'm saying, those things that's going to keep those genes at bay that his mother has, that his grandparents have, that his great grandparents have. So we're triggering these genes at a very young age in our
Mm-hmm.
children.
Yep.
So now they go through the adolescent years, the teenage years, and now into their 20s, they've been eating like crap because we are in the fast food era.
Yep.
Everything is fast. Everything is fried.
Processed.
Everything is processed. So that's the diet that they're having at during these young years. And so when you get to age 20, 21, 22, man, you've already trashed the body. And the problem with that, I see the bigger picture with that is that now high blood pressure is showing up in kids even at the early age of, 11, 12 years old.
Right. Yep.
11 and 12 years old. And they're coming in and they have high blood pressure at that age. So you can't tell me that all of a sudden now the genes are starting to the genes are affecting, as soon as you're born, the gene is just on
expressing,
now.
Right. It's expressing earlier now, right?
It's expressing
high blood pressure gene. High blood pressure gene.
High blood pressure gene.
Right.
So now and so now what if we start training our kids? It's like, oh, you got high blood pressure, don't worry about it, because I got it.
Right.
That's why you got it. And the kid is 12 years old.
They're gonna come up with a high blood pressure vaccine.
Right. Man.
And you know what, man?
You will have people running to go get it.
Man, and I always like to boil things down when we're talking about these conditions like high blood pressure at a young age. I like to boil it down to some things that we see around us, things that we commonly see in our practices. And one of the things I hear a lot more now than I have ever heard is that my kid is a picky eater.
Right.
And wrong. Your kid is not a picky eater. You just letting your kid pick the food. Because cheese fries taste better than broccoli. They just do. You know what I'm saying? Man, pizza tastes better than green beans. It does. And if you 4 years old and I get to choose what I eat, pizza tastes better than green beans. Right? So for you parents that's calling your kids picky eaters, what I'm telling you is how they gonna pick. It's about what they picking from. Right? If they're gonna be picky when they get to choose what they pick from, man, chicken nuggets are delicious. Chicken nuggets are delicious. Sauce. It don't taste as good as cauliflower. Cauliflower don't taste as good. And so when you allow for your 4-year-old to decide that they want what they want to eat, then guess what you're gonna get? A kid that's gonna pick those things, that's gonna pick fast food. And I'm not saying your kid can never have those things. Of course not. I'm not saying that.
Right.
But what I'm saying is you have to be the one that controls their diet, because what you are doing is setting the foundation for their health for the rest of their life. You literally setting the foundation for the health of the rest of their life, or you putting them in a situation that when they're 30 and they're suffering from all these conditions, now they have to course correct, right? So they have to undo 28 years of bad eating, because at 5 and 6 and 7, you allowed them to make all the choices, right? Instead of setting the foundation for the kid to understand what healthy food is and what it means for their body and how important it is, and making it a priority in your household and doing all those things from the beginning. So now when they're 14 and they want McDonald's every single day, at least they know where to go back to get healthy. At least they know what the foundation is. And when you allow for your kids to make these decisions like that for themselves, don't get me on kids making decisions. That's a whole nother thing. They ain't got nothing to do with health. But what you get is you get an unhealthy population. What was it, 20 to 44? A quarter of them have high blood pressure, Dr. Vaught?
Between the ages of 20 to 24. That is ridiculous. It's startling. And bringing that back up, we're talking about all of the reasons that we're having this hypertension, high blood pressure. For our listeners, and you guys are probably some of the, you are one of the largest practices in the Midwest in the United States, African American practices. And one of the things, as far as the high blood pressure that you see, clinically, it's already been put out there. But I want to ask you all, just first, what do you all think is the biggest culprit and hypertension and high blood pressure? What's causing it? What do you all think?
Our lack of information and knowledge about it. I think that's going to always be first and foremost.
Okay.
The understanding that comes with it. Because if we had a little bit more understanding, we would also be looking at what's happening with the medical system and how they're trying to gather even more people into this whole bubble of hypertension. Because years ago, 140 over 90 was not the number that was considered to be hypertensive.
Right.
So that number has been coming down lower and lower over the years. So you tend to grab more people to label them as hypertensive. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, but the way that we're looking at it again, it's it's twofold. I say it's not a problem because it will get people to hopefully react to what's going on in their body and start to make changes when they see that number starting to creep up there, hopefully. But on the other end of that, I don't think that number was brought down for that. I think it was brought down for money purposes because, there's a lot of money as well when it comes, for hypertension. That portion of it when it comes to medicine. So, when it comes to hypertension and the lack of education that we have, one, medicine tends to make us think that things are not that bad. It makes us not take things as serious because, all I got to do is go take this pill for it. But if we're not educated properly, we don't understand the damage that just having hypertension is doing to the vessels of the body as well as the heart, like Dr. E explained early. That medication covers, it's giving us a false sense that, I'm going to be okay because I'm medicated for the high blood pressure. But at the same time, the body is being riddled. The vessels are breaking down. The heart is becoming weaker. The body overall is becoming weaker. And we don't realize it because we've been taught that as long as you take this pill, you're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm. And that's the core of it, man. I'll tell you guys a story. My stepfather is a great dude, right? And this just happened like 2 weeks ago. He comes to me and he's like, man, I've been getting dizzy a lot when I exercise because he works out every day. I've been getting dizzy a lot when I exercise. I said, well, man, what's going on? Are you eating? And we start just going, checking off the list. And I said, what medications are you taking? And he said, I take high blood pressure medication. Boom. There it was. Right. I take high blood pressure medication. And I said, okay. So side note, about 3 years ago, my mom and my stepfather decided to become vegans. So my stepfather has lost like 40 something pounds. Right. He in great shape. In his mid 60s, in great shape. And I said, Henry, what's your blood pressure normally? You know what he told me? It's like 97 over 50 something. And I said, well, wow. if your blood pressure is 97 over 50 something, then you're probably going to be dizzy and when you exercise. And I said, are you still taking the medication? He said, yeah, I'm still taking the medication. And I said, high blood pressure medication is designed to drive your blood pressure down, right? So if you are a vegan and you are exercising every single day and you've lost 40 something pounds, it's a good chance that you have normal blood pressure. And now you're taking this blood pressure medication and it's pushing your blood pressure even lower, right? Sometimes for him, probably to dangerous levels. And I said, right. Well, what did you say? What did the doctor say? What did your medical doctor say? I should say more specifically, what did your medical doctor say when you told them that your blood pressure was low? Y'all already know what he said. Y'all already know what his medical doctor said. Keep taking the medication.
Keep taking it.
What in the world? What in the world? Because, the line is, once you start taking blood pressure medication, you're supposed to take it for the rest of your life. Even if you lose 40 something pounds, you exercise every single day and you are a vegan, even still, and your blood pressure is in the 90s over the 50s every single day. How insane is that? How insane is the system that we under, that somebody that a healthcare professional would give somebody that kind of advice? That's crazy.
Because they said they probably feel like the medication is what got his blood pressure down that low anyway. So
right, because he was taking it a decade prior and nothing was changing. Right, his blood pressure wasn't getting better for the decade prior, and then he changed his lifestyle. Right, he changed his lifestyle. and his entire body transformed. His entire health changed. And it's crazy that the medical profession does not recognize what all of us with common sense understand, is that when you change the way that you eat and how much you exercise, that you actually get healthier. That's crazy. That's so crazy. It's revolution. They probably gonna put a study out that say, hey, we did a study and we found that if you exercise, you get healthier. We put a study out and we found that if you don't eat red meat, you get healthier. They got to do a study first to come up with common sense things. And it's so insane, man. And it makes me afraid for people who don't have people with knowledge in their lives. Like you said, Dr. Tipler, is people with knowledge in their lives, or they don't have the knowledge themselves. Because if me and him had that conversation, he would have just kept taking the medication, and that would have been dangerous for him. Right? What if he would have passed out while he was driving?
And see, this is one of the reasons why I bring up. See, you guys totally just answered the truth as far as the biggest culprit for high blood pressure. But this is what studies are saying as far as the reason why people are getting the high blood pressure. And a lot of our listeners may or may not want to hear it. Is because of excessive alcohol use. They said that alcohol is the number one cause. Dr. Tipler, what you're saying is the truth. Dr. Everett, what you're saying is the truth. But they say alcohol because of, and it is a tremendous, and it's something that just has to be addressed, because in our community, oftentimes a good time isn't hiking in the mountains. A good time isn't sweating at the gym. A good time isn't juicing kale. A good time is drinking alcohol. And what it does to the body is it thickens the blood. It also poisons the body, and it causes, and it's one of the number one reasons people right now are in the emergency room. It also raises the cholesterol. Now, knowing that it raises the cholesterol, that cholesterol goes somewhere in the body. It goes around the arteries, the internal portion of the arteries, which makes the heart have to work harder to push blood through there and circulate them, because these arteries contract and help blood and oxygen move, which increases the level of pressure, which increases the blood. So how can we bypass that in our community?
Wait a minute. You saying yak ain't good for you? Yak ain't good for you?
The turn up is not really real.
It's not really real.
It is unfortunately the turn up, and I want to go back. Everything in moderation. There are medicinal benefits to specific things. You talk about your red wines with the resveratrol, your gin with the juniper berries. I mean, these are things that people do research on to make sure that the turn up can still be real. But, but I mean, how can we really bypass that, or besides moderation, to make sure that this is not something that is being the number one cause within our community?
Man, that for me, that's kind of amazing to hear, man, that alcohol is like the number one cause of high blood pressure. Because so when I hear that, I'm wondering, I'm like, man, is the fast food industry putting this information out?
Right.
When people stop,
you know what I'm saying? Hey, man.
So it ain't us that's caused the high blood pressure. It's the alcohol.
Right.
So keep eating. keep coming here, but you know
Stay
you
off
got to
that.
stop.
Right.
Right.
Hey man, some of that stuff Hardy's put out, boy. Some of that stuff Hardy's be putting out. You telling me cognac is worse than that?
Right. Right.
But you know
So
what?
I have to.
I think it is more so. Now, the fast food industry is similar, right? Because it still has the sugars, it still has the process, which does similar things to the bloodstream as far as the impact that it has on the systems. But I'm thinking that more people are doing more drinking excessively because of stress, because of partying, and also as well, we have healthy people, or supposedly healthy people that have normal height, normal weight, and things, but they're heavy drinkers that are getting high blood pressure. And if you think about it, well, I guess you could kind of, but you don't get a hangover from a double cheeseburger. But sometimes you can get a hangover from a double shot of yak, you know.
Well, it depends on what you label as a hangover. If you're just talking about
Right.
a hangover, because I know you if you eat two double anything from anywhere, that
Bruh,
hangover is sleep.
man, come on. Your head be like this. Your head be like
Right.
this, boy. So that's a
Your
good
stomach
point.
talking to you.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
You know,
Hey, the
if
next
you sitting,
morning, the next morning is real,
So the fast
right?
food industry is putting out statistics on the CDC.
Hey, we have just solved it. We have just cracked the case. We have just cracked the case, man.
So definitely, just for our listeners, you know, as far as alcohol consumption, not overindulging, and looking
Mhm.
at, you know, what you're intaking, the type that you intake, quantity and time. And I appreciate that from you guys, because it you know, that is something right there. A lot of our listeners would have a very, very good bring some joy to our listeners right
Right.
there. But the next thing I was looking at, you know, as far as intermittent fasting, and Dr. Everett, you kind of put me on intermittent fasting quite a while ago. You still intermittent fast, right?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
On
So
and off, but yeah, very regular.
so does intermittent fasting help with high blood pressure, and how?
One of the things I think about intermittent fasting is the stress on the system, right? Because one of the, what we hear a lot and we talk about, you hear people who do things like eat one meal a day, right? Things like that. I'm not that extreme. Like, I got to eat more than that, but but it's the stress on the system, right? Because the food that we eat, our body has to process. Our digestive system has to break it down. It has to take out the toxins, right? It has to move the nutrients around the body, which requires a lot of energy, and a lot of use of a lot of systems in our body in order to make that happen, right? So if you eat a huge breakfast, you snacking throughout the day, you eat a pretty good sized lunch, you snacking throughout the day, and then you eat a huge dinner. That can be, from a basic standpoint, very difficult and very hard on the body to actually break down and process. The problem with the body not having that time and that space to break down and process things is one of the things like fat, for example, right? There's toxins and a bunch of other stuff, sugars, but fat, for example, if the body can't process and break down the fat fast enough, guess where it goes? Out into the body. It goes down to the body, so it ends up in the muscle and it ends up in your bloodstream. When I was in college, I was broke, and so when you're broke and you're in college, you resort to things in order to pay, for your expenses. Now, when you're broke in college, you ain't got too many expenses other than enjoying yourself. And so I needed a little money to be able to enjoy myself. So one of the things I did was I did the research studies. I don't know if y'all did that when y'all was in college, but when I was in college, they had near my campus, they had like this research facility where you would go And sometimes they would give you some pretty benign drug for you to take. You sign waivers like this thick.
So you donated your body to science.
Donated my body to science way too early. Way too early. This is before I knew any better, right? This is many moons ago when I was making a lot of not so smart decisions. And so they give you this, fairly low level medication, and they draw you, but they would draw your blood a number of times a day. You would go and stay for the entire weekend. So you get there Thursday night and you leave on Sunday, and they draw your blood like 28 times, a crazy amount of times over the course of a weekend, right? Like 7 times a day. And one time I'm sitting at the, I got my arm up on the thing, and the phlebotomist is taking my blood. And she said, "Man, you got some good blood." And I said, "Well, what's good blood?" And she pulled up a vial, and she said, "Most of them look like this one." And she said, "You see that at the bottom?" And at the bottom was about a ½ inch of like this yellow gunk. And I said, "Well, what is that?" And she said, "That's fat." She said, "Most people, almost all the people I draw blood on, the fat will settle at the bottom of the vial, and you don't have any of that fat in your vial." She said, "Actually, that's kind of rare." I said, "So most people have fat in their bloodstream?" And she was like, "Yeah." And that's crazy when you think about it, Dr. Vaught, like we was talking about, when you intermittent fast, your body can break that fat down. When you don't intermittent fast and you overload your system, that fat ends up in your bloodstream. When the fat ends up in your bloodstream, it clogs those arteries, right? And when you clog those arteries, guess what your heart has to do? Work harder to push blood around your body, which is why cholesterol is, that's the reason cholesterol is so important, right? Cholesterol is a measure of the amount of fat in your blood. That's simple. Too much fat in your blood, that's high cholesterol. High cholesterol means your arteries are clogged. Your arteries are clogged. That means the heart has to work harder in order to push blood around your body. You stress out that muscle. When you stress out that muscle, you have heart attacks. You have strokes. You have those things happen. So when about that intermittent fasting, one of the things it allows for your body to do is the space and time to be able to break down the foods that you consume.
And move. Thank you. That was I was looking because they were saying like we should be checking our blood pressure, because if it has no symptoms, if there are no symptoms, one of the things that we can do is kind of check our blood pressures. And looking at the monitors that they have in the stores, it says how accurate are they? Well, they're 5 to 15% inaccurate, and 5 to 15% inaccurate. So you got an 85% chance that when you're checking your blood pressure that it's correct, and 15% chance that it's incorrect, and you could be climbing up a dangerous hill. What are some ways that we can monitor our blood pressure from home effectively? And I mean, and this study was done in Canada in our Ottawa hospital back in 2015. So what are some ways we can effectively monitor our blood pressure to make sure that we don't have any of these dangerous conditions going on within our body?
I think one of the things where you can, people can do at home, even though those things may be a little inaccurate, for the most part, it will give you an idea. So if you look at things from a point of averages, so if you're taking your blood pressure, take it, 3 or 4 times, 5 times when you're checking it, and take that average, and that'll give you a pretty good picture of where your blood pressure may be. And then the other thing that's just going to be important is making sure that you go to regular, getting those regular visits, whether it's with your medical doctor, your chiropractor, or some other healthcare personnel that you see, but making sure that you're getting that checked. If you're at high risk for it, then a couple more times more often than not. But that's really the safest and easiest place to start.
Yeah, and a lot of those machines they may be off by, like you said, Dr. Vaught, 5 to 15%, but they're consistently off, right? Is what you find. Is if one is 10% off, it's going to be 10% off every single time you take your blood pressure. So one of the things that you can do is take that machine with you when you go to see that healthcare professional is going to take your blood pressure. right? So they take your blood pressure, you take it with the machine. They take your blood pressure, you take the pressure with the machine, and you can see how close it is. You can see if it's matched up. You can see if it's hitting it on, the nail on the head. Or if, like you said, it's 10, 15% off. Now you know that it's 10 or 15% off. So you can come home and do that math and take their blood pressure 3, 4, 5 times a day and get those averages and really have a good idea of what your blood pressure is.
Yeah,
excellent. And in closing, this is such a huge topic, and it's so many things, and we started off in the beginning saying that there is currently no care for hypertension, right? There's currently no care. This is what the CDC and Mayo Clinic is saying. There's no care for it, but and like you were saying earlier, Dr. Everett, with your father-in-law, how his blood pressure was down, he lost 46 pounds, and his physician, his primary's answer to that was keep taking your medication, although you're literally healing your body. The biggest thing that we can do is lifestyle. Is your lifestyle. It's going to be your lifestyle. And so just in closing, what are some things that we can do in our lifestyle as far as tips, tools, and techniques that can help people? I'm talking about some golden jewels. This isn't the class. This isn't a 4-year degree on it. This is tips, tools, and techniques that are golden jewels that can help people that are out there, even if they're just starting, okay, and you have hypertension, high blood pressure, that can help them to manage.
I would go with first understanding that if you're going to take high blood pressure medication for a very long time, it's going to have a detrimental effect on your health, right? We could talk about dialysis and all that stuff in your kidneys and all those things, but if you're taking medications you're taking high blood pressure medication over a long period of time, then we know that it's going to be detrimental to your health. So if you don't want to take those medications for the rest of your life, then one of the things that I would say is decrease your fat, right? Decrease the amount of fat in your body, decrease the amount of fat in your diet. That would be the one thing that I would say if I was going to take a singular thing and tell you to do this is the amount of fat in your body by exercising, right? And the amount of fat you consume by watching your diet. Really that simple.
Wow. Yeah. I think I would say this, Doc. I would say have faith. And I say that because if you have a God that you serve, you know that the body is made magnificently and wonderfully in His image. He's given the body the ability to heal itself. So just like Dr. E explained, when we go through fasting, that's giving the body an opportunity to go through a healing process. So the reason I say faith is because I really feel like people don't have a good grasp in understanding that the body is powerful, and the body is able to fight back, and overcome a lot of the things that we do to it. But we have to know and understand that. We have to have faith in knowing that so that we can begin to make those changes. So on top of that, I would say, drink water. You got to hydrate. You have to hydrate. That's going to probably be in every episode if it comes. One of the things that you can do, start by drinking more water.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would close it out with the chiropractic adjustment. In that very top vertebrae in your atlas, you have these 2 vertebral arteries that run. And when the body is in proper alignment, there's no stagnation, there's no interference for that flow to go up through, so that your blood gets the oxygen, so that your heart doesn't have to work as hard to get that blood there. And we keep, like Dr. Everett said, that sponge wet, right? That's that sponge wet up there, all right? That pressure decreases and it normalizes, and it does a tremendous, tremendous amount as far as reducing the pressure in your blood. Yep. So, hey, to our listeners, hey, fellas, anything to close out?
Lifestyle.
Lifestyle.
Hey, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for receiving information. We want for you all to definitely get it. If you got comments, please put them below, and please share. This information can definitely change someone's life. You know, the value that it can bring to someone, and it's one of the things that we intend for that to do. You all have a blessed one today.
Thank you for listening to Black Health by Evoke.
He who has health has hope, and he who has hope has everything.
You can find us at www.evokingblackhealth.com or all social media platforms at Evoking Black Health.